a tent city.
Okay, so basically our scenario is based on the fact that we have to deal in a suburban environment of suddenly a tent city that has arrived, causing a slight problem for the neighbourhood, where the police may have been called and moved on the tent city, and subsequently these people are homeless. So we looked at this from a different perspective and said from tents to tiny houses. And what we looked at was a solution based on a 1 hectare model of 55 to the hectare as a solution to the tiny house component of this. So we're dealing with 55 to the hectare on a leaf design, and each leaf holds 9 tiny homes. Those tiny homes are being built this time as a prefabricated model, and based on our construction methodology, we're getting that down to a cost of around about 30,000 per unit instead of 50, because ours are permanent structures on poles, so that they are suitable for both a manufactured home park site, because they're not permanent fixtures, and they're also suitable for a body corporate solution. From the investor point of view, the return on this would be somewhere around about 20% for them, which is a good return, down to about 12% if they're looking for a body corporate solution, because there is some issue of titling of that land and therefore a cost component. The issues we looked at is we also have to deal with the fact that this has to expand from a tiny house to a tent city. So therefore it has to serve 2 purposes. Tents arrive as a need of a disaster that may have occurred in that electorate or that council or LGA, and as a result of that, this area here is a mixture of demographics. So of our 55 to the hectare, we've reserved 1/3 of that. This is an Irish model, a turd. And on the first turd, it is our homeless, the people in various degrees of homelessness. And when we define homelessness in group 5, we're talking about that from someone who's just had an incident at home and they're now on the street, someone who's been in a domestic situation and needs emergency housing, or it could be homeless, or it could be a young youth at risk, or it could be someone who's in their 60s, keeping in mind that a large proportion of Brisbaneites live in under $300 a week scenarios. So if you look at red dots across this place we call home, a very large percentage of people exist on under $300 a week when they're over 60. It's a big mark. So subsequently, we're not talking about a particular demographic, and these leaf designs are such that the areas of spines allow people to be able to get through to these central common areas for each pod, and that common area is suitable for common kitchens, common ablutions blocks and other things, because this also has to provide an expansion model for the tent city that comes into play from time to time, depending on the disaster. Now the reason why we've created a disaster relief village is we don't think we can sell this to a community unless there's a community benefit. And that community benefit is that at the moment there is no disaster plan for LGAs at the moment, apart from some crummy little basketball stadium somewhere. And we're saying that this is being built as 100% off-grid. Therefore, should the disaster arrive, this place is already off-grid. Now the people that agree that we allow to live here agree to put in a sweat equity program. And that sweat equity program means that we can then maintain our services and structures based on that sweat equity involvement of the community who we agree to house here. The rentals that we've allowed for these tiny houses is a subsidy arrangement of $200 a week to return that 20%. So we're not looking at a high level of rental, we're looking at a very responsible level of rental to maintain that figure. The reason we chose a suburban environment is in a city environment, it's a whole new set of circumstances that you have to deal with, more than a vertical solution. There are vertical gardens between each pod, allowing them to create their own vegetables that can be sold to the greater community, or for their own personal use, for their own foods and sources. So they create their own water, their own power, and their own sewage systems, plus their own food sources, which are capable in these areas of creating soup kitchens and other things. And it is open to the public, allowing the community to interact with this particular area, because it is their emergency housing shelter as well, should the need arise for that. The key question that comes to mind when we present this is, how do we sell it to a government or council? We've chosen a council as our likely candidate and suggested that we'd like to do a competition to the councils to see who would like to create the first ever emergency housing village and a new form of blue tack to on a daily basis. So as you can see, it's stuck together pretty quickly. So we've instigated a body corporate approach to the whole thing, so that we do have some management technique beyond having to call a higher authority. So the body corporate process allows us to be the town sheriff, should the need arise to have a town sheriff. The process of management is done on site. And a little bit to the left. So fundamentally, the question I would ask you on behalf of Group 5 would be, do you feel that we can get involved in creating the best competition for a council or LGA in Queensland to be the very first council to accept that they need an emergency housing program, along with a new form of blue tack? So basically, that's our idea. This sits on 1 hectare at 55 to the hectare, expands into a tent city, which means the total amount of land we require from the council would be 5 acres or 2 hectares in total.